Yeah, unfortunately, we just had another screen crash, but luckily, I think we're back up and running again. And we've had a bit of a shake-up of the qualifying order since we've been off. We've got Keith Camilleri at the top now by just over a tenth of a second from Bernard Vella. Camilleri's lap being a 2:21.943. We have just under 14 minutes remaining in the session, about 13 and a half minutes remaining now. And the order is Camilleri, Vella, Tabone, Grech, Barbara, Martin, Muscat, Colette, Borg, and then still Schaefer hasn't quite set a lap yet. So Richard Schaefer hasn't quite put together a lap, and neither has Daniel Gauci or Denis Ishenko, although Gauci just set his first lap, actually. That put him to 10th position, so the bottom of the drivers who have set laps so far, but he did set his lap later than the others. So he's still got some time to get up to speed, I suppose. He will be disadvantaged by not having set his lap so far, though, as will Schaefer and as will Ashenko. But seems like they've got their cars going, so that's good. We have 12 drivers now in the session. It looked initially like we were going to get about 8. Now we got 12 in, so that's good to see. Seems that a lot of people have joined late, but anyway, we've got the session properly up and running now. And Brandon Tabone just set a quick first sector, as did Jason Muscat. I think Tabone is ahead on the circuit. Oh, he's in the gravel, I tell you. So Tabone is not going to be going any quicker on this lap. That was at the Piff Path, so at the campus section. Just seemed to go in on the wrong line. I swung the car around and off it went into the gravel. Now, Jason Muscat is our next hope for a quicker lap. He's certainly on course for one, although in terms of his actual lap time so far, he's a long way behind Josh Martin, ahead of him in 6th, over a second behind. There's a big gap between 6th and 7th, so Muscat's going to have to he's going to have to pull a lot of time out of the bag, and he's spun the car, so Muscat is not going to be going any quicker on this lap, and he abandons to the pit lane, so he's going to have to go out again, and that is not what Muscat wants to be doing. We know he's a quick driver, but he's really struggling so far in this R1, and is a long way behind 6th position so far, although he's exiting the pits again and going on to another lap. Now, I believe we're about to see a battle between 2nd and 3rd, because both of those drivers are on new laps, and they both appear to be properly pushing for it this time. Vella's first sector, not quite as quick, but he's ahead in the lap. So Vella is going to set his first. He's just going through. Is that Bruxelles? That is Bruxelles. My word, they carry a lot more speed through there than my GT3 car can. I mean, I don't own a GT3 car, but I race one in an R Factor 2 league. But anyway, now through Pour. Double left-hander. Run it out to the curb, but not over it. Yeah, good so far from Vella. And he actually gained quite a bit of time on himself through that little bit of the track. So he's still up on his lap, and I believe that this is going to be an improvement from Vella. But by how much? It could be on for pole. We'll see what he can do in the last two sectors. He's just going through Curve Paul Frere now. Runs it slightly over the white line. But that is a personal best second sector from Bernard Vella. And he's about a tenth of a second up on his lap. And remember that Keith Camilleri ahead of him, only just over a tenth of a second ahead in terms of best lap. So this could definitely be on for pole here from Bernard Vella. He's just going through Blanchimont. There he goes through Blanchimont. And now out towards the penultimate corner and the final corner. This is a chicane, of course. Ooh, very tight through the first of the two apexes, and that's cost him a bit of momentum, but he still appears to be going quicker than his best. Is it pole? Not quite. He misses out by 0.022, so very nearly close to well, he is very close to Keith Camilleri, but not quite ahead of him yet. What can Tabone do? He's coming through the final sector now. He appears to have lost a bit of time. So I said there was going to be a battle between second and third. I thought there was going to be, but I think that Tabone's lost a bit of time. Someone runs it wide in the background, and actually Tabone's run over the curb on the outside now, and that's not a quicker lap from Brandon Tabone. He needs to go again and see what he can do on another lap, as we have just less than 9 minutes remaining in this session so far. What about Keith Camilleri? He is on a quick one in the first. Well, he's in the second sector now, and his delta time is registered as being 0.2 of a second up. So Keith Camilleri, who is currently at the top of the order, time from Bernard Vella behind. He flicks it through the pawn section. Someone went off there. Hopefully that didn't distract Camilleri too much. Now through the campers section. Doesn't quite, well, he does clip the first apex, but later than I would have expected. Second apex too. And over the curb. Now what's his second sector time? Runs it out and over the curb, and I'm afraid his second sector time hasn't been great. I think he might have lost a lot of time in that second sector there, but we'll see. He's still got the third sector to go through Longchamp and the bus stop. So if he can get the bus stop absolutely nailed, this could still be a quicker lap from Camilleri, but it's going to be unlikely. We'll have to see. Through the final two corners, he's lost a lot of time under brake, and this isn't going to be quicker from Keith Camilleri. He's about half a second down as he exits the final corner, and that is not an improvement from Keith Camilleri there. It's about half a second down in the end, but Omar Barbara's lap so far has been impressive. That's a personal best second sector, and Barbara could move himself up to fourth here. There's a big gap between third and fourth of over a second, but Barbara and Grech fighting over fourth position here. And let's see what Grech's lap is, or Barbara's lap is rather, and it does move him ahead of Grech. So Barbara moves up to fourth. Grech gets demoted to fifth here. And there's now less than a second of a gap between third and fourth, but only just. It's about 0.9 of a second. It appears that the top two are extremely close, Camilleri and Vella. To Bone a little while behind in third. Then there's a big gap back to fourth, fifth and sixth. 0.3 of a second back to Schaefer in seventh. And then a big gap of about 0.8 of a second back to Muscat in eighth as Schaefer has a crash. And then about 2 seconds of a gap back to Calais in ninth, followed by half a second to Borg. Another second, about a second and a half to Ashenko, and then 0.2 to Guachi. So it's a pretty spread out field so far, but still battles wherever you look, really. And of course this, well, we've still got about 6 minutes of qualifying remaining, so still plenty of time for things to change. That's about, well, just under 3 laps. That means the drivers will probably have 1 or 2 hot laps left to go. And Joseph Calais appears to have improved his so far in the first sector. He's about half a second up on his lap. This is good from Calais, but I don't think he's going to get close to Muscat on this lap. He runs it over the white line, and actually, oh no, the car ahead of him touches the grass. But Calais hoping to get himself further ahead of Glenn Borg to maintain his 9th position. He's just going through Pont now and down towards the campus section. Has a bit of a twitch through there, but he's kept it under control just about, and he still appears to be up on his lap. So Calais is still going for a relatively quick one compared to what he's been doing so far in this session. He's just going through into the third sector now. He's still about 0.3 up, so his first sector especially was a very quick one. His second sector, not even his personal best, but his first sector, probably about half a second quicker than what he's done in the past. He's also getting the slipstream from the car ahead, who's run a little bit wide there. Is that, well, that'll be Daniel Guachi, currently trying to get himself out of last position, and Guachi gets out of the way. And Calais comes through the final couple of corners now, doesn't lock up the tyre, so that's a good final chicane, although he does hit the inside curve a bit at the final corner. He's losing time as he accelerates out towards the start-finish straight, but he still goes faster than his lap, although it doesn't move him up a position. He's still about a second and a half behind Jason Muscat ahead of him. So a lot of time to be gained, and I don't think he's going to gain it in this time, especially with a big twitch like that out of turn 1. Keith Camilleri has just started a brand new lap, but Bernard Vella has just set a second best second sector on his out lap. So Vella obviously feels that the tyres are going to last, and he can push the car on the out lap to see if he can get his tyres up to temperature before his final qualifying lap. And that's very interesting to see, the fact that Vella has set a purple sector on his out lap. But anyway, Keith Camilleri has just set a quick first sector. I think that's one of the quickest first sectors we've seen so far. Not quite the quickest, but Camilleri is pushing hard to extend his lead. He's in the second sector at the minute, and he's about a tenth of a second up, although he's not quite a tenth of a second up now. It's close. He's still holding his lap time though. He's going through Kerberpool Frere, and what's his second sector time? It's not quite quicker than what he's previously capable of. It's about 2/10 off what Vella did on his out lap, but still the third sector to go. And if he can properly get the bus stop sorted, then this could well be a better lap from Keith Camilleri. We'll have to see. Through Blanchimont and towards the final bus stop now. He's pretty much equal with his best lap so far. This is really a race with himself from Keith Camilleri, but I'm afraid that's not really that good of an exit. Actually, that is quite a good exit, but I don't think it's going to be a quicker lap. I'm afraid it wasn't. So Camilleri goes about 2/10 down on his best, and we're now, well, he's going to go for another hot lap, I think. But now the attention turns to the other drivers around him. Bernard Vella is going, well, he's on a hot lap at the minute. He's about equal with his best as well. Behind them, Tabone and Barbara are both in the pits, so neither of those think they can go any quicker. And they've both abandoned this session early, as has Denis Ashenko. So about 3 drivers have abandoned the session already, as we have about 1 minute 30 remaining in this session. Not enough time to get out there and start another lap. And Bernard Vella sets a quickest second sector of anyone, including himself, on his out lap. And Bernard Vella is going quicker. This is a good lap so far from Bernard Vella. His first sector wasn't quite there. His second sector is absolutely on it. And he's just going down towards the penultimate corner, the first of the 2 bus stop corners. Does he get it right? That looks pretty right to me. Out to the final corner comes Bernard Vella. This could be on for pole. Let's watch what Vella does. He crosses the start-finish line. It is pole. It's provisional pole. But Keith Camilleri is still on a lap. Let's watch Camilleri trying to snatch it back at the last minute here, as he's coming down now towards the final sector. Let's not forget that if Vella's tyres are held up, and if he still has enough fuel, Vella could go for another lap here, because we still have about half a minute of qualifying left, and indeed Vella is still pushing. So this might not even be over when Camilleri crosses the line this time around. But Vella has snatched pole provisionally away from Camilleri. Camilleri was not up on his lap in the first or second sectors. This might be it for Keith Camilleri. He's trying it anyway. He's still pushing the car through the final sector of the course now. It's not all hopeless. He's about level pegging with his lap, just slower than it so far. He's going down towards the final chicane now. The right and the left, those are the 2 corners he's got left to go. And his delta is registering that he's not up. Can he get a good exit from the corner? He runs over the curb, and this isn't going to be up from Keith Camilleri. Camilleri crosses the line, doesn't go faster. Bernard Vella is still on a lap. He's still going for it, but he doesn't really need to, because there's no one in his immediate vicinity who can challenge him now. Bernard Vella takes pole, followed by Keith Camilleri, Brandon Tabone and Omar Barbara. There are a couple of drivers still on laps here, so I'm not going to call that early just in case, but that looks very much to be what the order is now, especially for the top 3, because there's a big gap from 3rd down to 4th. What about Terence Grech? Can he go faster on his lap? He's currently in 5th position, but not that far behind Omar Barbara in 4th position. Someone's off the road there, and Terence Grech joins him and abandons his lap. So Grech has given up on that one. Jason Muscat's still on a lap here. Martin and Schaefer have abandoned theirs in 6th and 7th. Calais has abandoned his. And Guachi was the car we saw in the escape road. He's abandoned his. So there's only 2 drivers still on laps here. Bernard Vella, who's just coming down towards the final 2 corners, he probably doesn't know that his rivals aren't going any quicker. And in fact, this is a stormer of a lap from Vella, who now runs it over the curb, and that's abandoned that lap. But that was a personal best in the first sector, but not a quicker lap from Vella. Still, Vella claims pole position there. What can Jason Muscat do? He exits the final corner. He is going to be the last driver to set a lap here. And where is it going to put him? Well, it's quicker, but it's not any quicker than Richard Chafes in 7th. So that means that the order is confirmed as Vella, Camilleri, Tabone, Barbara, Grech, Martin Schaefer, Muscat, Calais, Borg, Ashenko, and Guachi. And that is qualifying to an end. We now have about a 3-minute break before the first of our 2 races.
Great. We're going to go for a short break, as you said, and we'll be back soon for the race.
Gigabit Internet issa f'Malta. Gawdi mill-Giga Power biss mal-Melita Flexi.
And we're back here. We'll, like in 2 minutes 30 seconds, we'll be starting with the first race of this today's casual race by Sim Racing Malta. Thanks to Praga. Also, we're having the Praga R1 casual race today. Podium winners will get merchandise from Praga themselves, official merchandise. And just a quick reminder also that from Friday till Sunday we'll be present at the Quickfire Nova Series in Eden Arena with our simulator there. We're going to have a sprint challenge. More details we'll publish later on our Facebook today, and we'll be there for anybody that would like to join us and have a try in this challenge. We'll have also various gifts given to us by our sponsors.
So, a cracking qualifying session, very tense end between Vela and Camilleri. And Vela proved on that final lap that he still had about 3 tenths to give, although messed it up in the final chicane. Not that that mattered for his order, but obviously Vela still has more to give, and I expect that Camilleri does as well. So these two drivers could be real titans in battle going into this race. We'll see what happens and who gets the better start. And then, of course, we'll be able to see if any of the other drivers can get involved in that as well. Brandon Tabone, remember, he wasn't even half a second behind the leaders. So Tabone still has more to prove, I'm sure. And what about the others as well? We have plenty of drivers I recognise in this server. Plenty of drivers who have won casual races here before. And at Spa, quite a lot can happen. It's a difficult circuit with a lot of history and plenty of chance for things to change. We are just waiting about 30 seconds for the lights to come on. And when those red lights go off, the race will be underway with Bernard Vela on pole. It's a short run down to turn 1 here. So it's all about getting that good initial launch. And if you can have the inside down into turn 1, you're going to be pretty much unstoppable. It's very difficult to go too wide through turn 2 and 3. That's a rouge. Here come the lights. When they go out, we will be underway, and it's go! Away we go at the start of the first of the 2 races. Bernard Vela appears to have got a good start. He's getting away from Camilleri here as we head down towards turn 1. Camilleri tries to hold us on the outside, but Vela leads it. Tabone has to back off. He had a brief look. There's been a little bit of contact to the back. Someone got tipped sideways there. I believe that was well, someone got tipped sideways, but anyway, looks like we're all through relatively cleanly at the start here and heading up towards the Eau Rouge Radion complex. Hopefully everyone makes it through cleanly here. It's a fast corner. If something goes wrong, it can be very dangerous, but everyone makes it through on this opening lap. And look at Vela and Camilleri. They're side by side for the lead. Camilleri goes to the outside, down into Lecombe, tries to outbrake in the slight contact, and he's going wide. So Camilleri got touched by Vela there, and they're going to touch again, are they? No, not quite. But Vela regains the lead of the race. I wasn't quite expecting him to keep that, but Camilleri has another look to the inside, has to back up as we head down towards Bruxelles. And Tabone looks a bit opportunistic and a bit racy behind Camilleri there. Took a little look to the outside as they went through Bruxelles. But Camilleri still in second, behind Bernard Vela. It's Vela, Camilleri, Tabone, and Barbara. And then 5th place, I don't believe it's still Terence Grech. No, Josh Martin's taken that. So Martin up to 4th, and now Barbara's running wide. He's going out over the curb at Rouen. Runs very, very wide there. Martin gets up to 4th now. And in fact, Terence Grech re-inherits his 5th position. And Keith Camilleri, I think, was actually ahead as they went through the first checkpoint there, which is confusing me a bit in terms of the actual order. But whatever the case, Vela is still ahead as they head towards the Blanchimont sector. Jason Muscat was the driver affected earlier on in this lap. He is running behind the field in last position. So Muscat, who starts in 8th, has been affected somewhere on the lap and is now no longer in that position. Now, can Camilleri get a good run on Vela heading down towards the bus stop? He takes a look to the inside. He is actually going for it here. He gets the inside curb. That's going to turn into the outside. It's all about who gets the better exit here down onto the start-finish straight. It looks as if it's going to be Bernard Vela, but Camilleri still in the slipstream. Gets the better exit. He is catching Bernard Vela down the start-finish straight here and goes to the outside of Camilleri's car, but doesn't manage to get that place done. They both run slightly off around the final corner there, and Martin has dropped down the order, so something's happened to Josh Martin. Oh, contact between Nashenko and Guachi. That was close, but Josh Martin, who was running in 4th position, has now dropped down to 10th, so something has gone dreadfully wrong there. And I'm not sure quite what happened. I didn't see it. I expect it happened at the bus stop. Maybe someone tagged him into a spin or something of that kind. And again, we're side by side for the lead. Camilleri looking to the outside of Vela. as we head down towards the Lacombe section. The right, left, right, and Vela outbreaks Camilleri. Does he get it slowed down in time? No, he runs wide. Look at Camilleri getting the outside of the second corner. He'll have the inside for the next one, and through Brussels as well, but they tap. And Camilleri still on the inside here. Does he take the lead? Down to Brussels. It's a long radius corner, so if Vela can keep himself holding alongside, they collide again. This is really wheel rubbing situation. And Camilleri gets it and gets the move done into Speaker's corner. That was a brilliant forceful overtake from Keith Camilleri, and somehow the two of them didn't have a proper accident there. There was wheel banging galore, but no proper incident, and that's good to see. Now, what's happened to Omar Barbara? Because Barbara was running in fourth, he's now running a long way down the order. In fact, I think Barbara might be as low as, is that 7th position? We'll see when he crosses the line. But something has happened to Omar Barbara on that lap. I think we've had a couple of incidents so far in this race that I haven't quite been able to see, but seems that everyone is still running in this race. Now, as we head out through the final sector, will Vela be able to have another look at Camilleri, possibly into the bus stop? It's a heavy braking zone, so often you can take advantage of the braking zone. He runs slightly wide there, but Camilleri looks to the outside of... oh no, Vela looks to the outside of Camilleri. There's a big lockup, and again they collide. The leaders collide, and now, over the curve runs Camilleri. Look at Tabone. Tabone might well get into this. They're side by side as they head down the start-finish straight. Are we going 3 wide here? It's certainly close. Very, very close. As they cross the line, it's Vela ahead. But who's going to get it into turn 1? They are very, very close, and that's Bernard Vela still leading it ahead of Camilleri and Tabone, so they stay in the order they cross the line in, but only just. That was a brilliant piece of racing there. And following them after the Sorto, Schaefer, Borg. Oh, Borg runs wide. Borg runs very, very wide and loses out to Josh Martin. Does he also lose out to Denis Yashenko, who's had an amazing start? Not quite. Terence Grech has lost a couple of positions in the order as well. So something has happened to Terence Grech, and Omar Barbara, I believe, has kept losing position. Oh, and Jason Muscat's out. So Muscat, and he's out of the server. He's out of the server completely. So that may have been a disconnection. I'm not entirely sure. And Vela keeps the lead down into Lacombe this time. And still, the top 3 extremely close, and still quite a lot can change in this race. They were registered as being about 0.3 of a second apart through the first checkpoint. So that's just as they were heading down the Kemmel Straight. And what an amazing race this has been so far. We're only about 6 minutes in, and we've still got about 13 laps of this race remaining. So just under half an hour of this race still to go. It'll probably be about 40 minutes in total, but we'll see. Through the campus section and out towards Coverpool Frere there. Still Vela leading from Camilleri and Tabone. But Camilleri catching Tabone there. That was a very quick sector registered. So still the battle for the lead not over yet.
So actually we'll have a couple of things we need to, the steward will be seeing after the race, especially in lap 2. And some instances also in lap 3, so that we'll see some bumping that happened. If anybody is at fault, obviously, or just was a race incident.
Yeah, a couple of drivers lost quite a few places at the start there. Terence Grech being one of them, Omar Barbara being another. Jason Muscat is out of this race. And Glenn Borg and all of that has gained about 5 places. So Borg up to 5th now, running right behind. Actually, he's dropped a couple of places on that last lap. He was up to 5th before that lap, but he's now dropped down to, I think, 7th. But still a good start from him, and another good one from Denis Yashenko. But Yashenko appears to have lost plenty of places on that lap. He's now down to 11th and last position of the runners so far. So a couple of incidents even on that last lap, or a couple of changes even on that last lap. I don't know if there was actually any contact, but still things very close. Tabone has lost a bit of time to Camilleri there. He's now over a second behind Camilleri, and the real battle is still the one for the lead between Vela and Camilleri. and that has come out to about 0.7 of a second. So Vela leading from Camilleri, and then Tabone, Schaefer, Martin, Grech, Borg, Calais, Barbara, Gauci, and Ashenko with Muscat out of the race. That is our order after the first 8 minutes of racing, the first 3 laps. And now Vela appears to be trying to escape from Camilleri behind. He's extending his lead with a race fastest first sector so far. Currently, he holds the fastest lap as well, a 2:23.832. So that's a fastest lap so far from Bernard Vela, but still plenty of time remaining in the race. We're not expecting any pit stops, so the fastest laps will probably come near the start of the race when the drivers have fresh tyres. These tyres do go off relatively quickly, being slick tyres, but anyway, well, Camilleri caught right back up in that second sector there with an even quicker second sector than on his last lap. So Camilleri looks to be quicker through the second sector. It might be that Vela is quicker in a straight line because you have mainly the fast section in the at the start, and then of course you have the twistier second sector where Camilleri appears to be gaining time. There are setups. I don't believe it's sock setup, so that means that Camilleri might well be running more downforce, or just generally a better suspension setup. But of course, I'm not entirely sure about that. But the gap on that lap in total did come out to about 0.9 of a second, so it came out by about 2 seconds, 0.2 of a second there. And in all of that, there's been a bit of a change down the order. It appears Calais has lost a couple of positions, and now Barbara's up to 8th and Guachi's up to 9th. So a little bit of changing going on down the order. Oh, I tell you why that is. It's because Calais has just taken a trip through the pit lane, as has Ashenko. So I think there might have been some incidents on that lap, because I wasn't expecting any pit stops in this race. But Calais and Ashenko have both just been through the pits there.
Yeah, actually, there was an accident between Shenko and Josef Kallega, so that's why they went into pits, obviously, to repair their damages.
Okay, I'm gonna have a look back on stream and see if I can find out what happened there. But anyway, that's a disappointing one, because those two have both been having a much better race than they've been expecting after qualifying, I'm sure. So disappointing to see them having to take a trip through the pit lane. But anyway.
Yeah, actually, it happened all in lap 4, and we didn't manage, obviously, to get it on live stream, but the race steward managed, obviously, to see it, because he was following them, because they were quite close, and
Makes sense. Camilleri appears to be a lot closer to Vela rather, than he was prior. In fact, he gained about half a second on Vela in that sector. So Camilleri pulling the gap right back in again, and may have, well, I think Vela may have just made a bit of a mistake or something like that, because that's a quick rate of capture, and Camilleri might actually have a go at Vela possibly on this next lap if he continues to catch at the same rate, or if Vela makes another error like that. We'll have to see. But still, the battle for the lead, maintaining the gap, and appears to certainly not be over yet. The gap back down to 0.7 of a second, so still they're close, and still they're battling, and still there's plenty of time to be gained. And Ashenko is still in the pits, so there is obviously a lot of damage to Ashenko's car. Calais is back out on track again, with Ashenko still in the pits, so big damage to his car, I expect, and that's a shame. But we'll see what the stewards rule on the decision with his incident, and also about any of the incidents that may have happened at the start of this race in the first couple of laps. Seemed to be a relatively clean first lap, but we saw a couple of drivers losing positions on the second and the third. So we'll have to see what comes of the decisions that the stewards may end up making. And it's after the first 13 minutes. It's Vela from Camilleri, Tabone, Schaefer, Martin, Grech, Borg, Barbara, Gauci and Kalea. Those are the top 10 drivers from our 12 starters. And still, the battle for the lead is close. Not quite ragingly close, but very, very close still. And Borg and Barbara, another one that's close, as Barbara is trying to make his way back through the order. He was running in 4th position earlier, but lost a couple of places, and we didn't quite see, or I don't think we quite saw how. I certainly didn't. But Barbara, I believe, is catching Borg at a considerable rate of knots. He's got a much fastest lap in this race so far. In fact, on the last lap alone, he gained about 2.2 seconds on Borg. So that's another battle that might well swap places. It does appear that Camilleri is catching significantly in the second sector, and he stuck right with Vela in the first sector on that lap. I estimate that the gap is at about 0.3 of a second now as we head through Blanchemont. Camilleri might well have an attack at Vela as we head now down towards the bus stop. He does go to the inside. This is for the lead of the race. Camilleri tries to outbrake Vela. Vela locks up, and Camilleri has to stick to the outside line. Tries to get the switchback and the better run down the start-finish straight. He's certainly right under his gearbox. He pulls out to the outside line as we head down to the La Source hairpin. This is a good battle for the lead. Camilleri tries to outbrake him again. He's going to have to go for the switchback. And, well, now it's all about keeping the speed up through Eau Rouge Radion and being able to attack down the Kemmel straight. Here we go then. Eau Rouge Radion. And then the top of Radion as well. And Camilleri is certainly close enough to attack. He's alongside him already. Look at this. This is going to be a full-on attack from Keith Camilleri as we head down to the Lecombe chicane. And does he outbrake Vela? They're still side-by-side travelling at exactly the same speed. And Vela still outbrakes Camilleri, but runs a bit wide. This is a replay of a couple of laps ago. He defends from Camilleri. Very forceful defence, but quite rightly so. And Camilleri is forced to still stick with second position. Great defence from Bernard Vela, and what a battle we are witnessing for the lead of this race. 15 minutes into the race. Through speakers we go. When will Camilleri's next attack come? Will it be down towards the bus stop like we saw last lap, or can he get on terms with Vela even before that? Cool is never really an overtaking opportunity. Fania can be sometimes. We'll see if he gets close enough. He's certainly having a look. Dives to the inside, but... oh, and there's a lock-up from Vela. Now, does Vela get it turned in? He does. And Camilleri still all over the back of him. Through the bottom end of the course and out towards Blanchemont. Again, this is for Vela just a case of sticking with, or for Camilleri, just a case of sticking with Vela ahead of him and then having an attack down into the bus stop. Vela knows he's strong in this sector. Now look at that, that's like a Max Verstappen move. He's trying to hold it on around the outside of Blanchemont as we head down towards, well, he swapped sides, so not quite the same, but he's going down into the bus stop. Vela locks up, and again Camilleri goes for the switchback on the exit of the bus stop down towards La Source. Can Vela get himself, or can Camilleri get himself alongside Vela down into this first corner? He heads to the outside line again. Again, it's about the switchback here. And does he get it? Not quite. But we all know how quick Camilleri is through this sector. We saw it last lap. He's actually pulling out his slipstream now so that he doesn't catch Vela in the Eau Rouge Radion complex, because that would really throw him off through this sector of corners. But he's a lot quicker through there. And as he accelerates out to the corner, this is going to be a replay of last lap. He tries to, well, he's ducked back into the slipstream just to maximise that effect, and now pulls alongside Vela again down the Kemmel straight and into Lecombe. He's still on his outside. Now who gets the better braking? Vela locks up again, and again Camilleri gets alongside him, and again he sticks around the outside. This time he gets the inside for the next corner, but he has to back out. So still no move, and still Vela has to stick, or still Camilleri has to stick behind Vela, and the lead battle does not quite change. What a squabble for the first few positions. And it's Vela still from Camilleri, and Camilleri appears to have dropped back a bit and all of that. And now he needs to think about getting back on terms with Keith Camilleri, with Bernard Vela rather, ahead of him. Whoa, my voice. That was incredible. That whole scrap there, just side by side, whenever they could be. And I can guarantee that Keith Camilleri is probably getting really quite frustrated behind Bernard Vela. But secretly, both of them would have really enjoyed that little scrap. Now out through Blanchimont they go, and up towards the bus stop. Camilleri not close enough for an attack this time around like he was the last 2 laps. But Vela does lock up. He's still feeling the pressure of it. And now as we go out and down the start-finish straight, Camilleri is thinking about setting up his attack again. The gap is 0.3 of a second. And actually he's properly close. There might well be another attack this lap again. So let's see if he can set it up heading down the old start-finish straight towards Rouge-Radion. Here he goes. Now, does he get the run through this sector like he did on the last 2 laps? Let's see, he's in the slipstream of Bernard Vela ahead of him. He'll be getting a mega run on Bernard Vela now as we go down towards the Lecombe chicane. Now, can he pull out? He does. Look at this, he's having a look, but can't outbrake him, can't get alongside him. And there's no lockup this time round from Bernard Vela, who really pushed his brakes on the last 2 laps. And still it's Vela out in front, followed by Camilleri. Now through speakers and down towards Pont, underneath the advertising board. And we'll see what the gap is this time around, but I estimate at the minute it's about 0.5 of a second, so about half a second separating the 2 of them. Meanwhile, Denis Yashenko has returned to this race in 11th position. He's not completely out, but he is a long way behind the rest of the field. In fact, he's several laps down, so it's mainly just a case of finishing the race so he can get the reverse grid pole now for Denis Yashenko. Of course, you have to finish to claim that reverse grid pole, so it won't be given to Jason Muscat. Now, can Camilleri line up Vela through the Blanchimont sector? I don't think he's going to be close enough to have an attack into the bus stop, but this is one of his primary hunting grounds here. Can he force Vela into another lockup? Yes, yeah, Vela still feeling the pressure, still locks up the tyre. And that's going to be leaving big flat spots on his front right, which are really going to affect his performance as time wears on. We are just over 20 minutes into this race. We're coming up to about 22 minutes in. And the order is Vela, Camilleri, Tabone, Schaefer, Martin, Grech, Vorg, Barbara, Guaci, Kalea, Yashenko, and then out of the race, Muscat. Up through Rouge-Radion go the leading pair. Still right together. The gap over that last lap was about 0.7 of a second. And Camilleri again will be getting a big tow from Vela ahead. He's dropped back briefly, but might well be going for another attack later on. Especially if Vela makes an error. We're just over halfway through this race. We've done about 9 laps. We've got about 6 to go. So we're a little way over halfway in this race now. The first of the 2 15-lap races, the second of which will be a reverse grid start. So should be very, very mixed up, and it should be a very interesting race to watch. And at the end of all of this, there are points awarded for each of the drivers. It doesn't go towards any championship, but we have a mini championship basically containing just these two races today, the two 15-lap races, and then the points from those races get added up at the end to decide the overall results of this event. And the top 3 of those, of course, win official Praga merchandise. And the top 3 at the minute would be Vela, Camilleri, and Tabone. But with the reversed grid, they'd have to fight their way through the order for race 2. So still plenty of time for things to change. Meanwhile, Barbara hasn't been able to follow Glenborg, so maybe Barbara has slight damage or something. We saw at the start of the race that Barbara, well, and in qualifying, that Barbara was a lot quicker than Glenborg, but Barbara just hasn't been able to stick with him, really. The gap's remaining steady, but there's not been any move there, so Barbara is struggling. Now, the gap for the lead came down by about 1/10 of a second on that last lap. It took about 0.6 of a second now, and it has never been a second apart. This entire race, the gap for the lead's been less than a second. That's proven what a tense and amazing battle it has been so far. They've been right together this entire time, inseparable, and that's great to see. Now down the back straight, Camilleri uses Vela's slipstream once again. Now how close does he get to the back of him? That's the primary overtaking opportunity of the lap, but he doesn't get close enough. And still Camilleri behind Bernard Vela on this lap. He has been for a little while, but he's only been just behind. It's still extremely close between the lot of them. And what an amazing race we have witnessed so far. Again, we are live on both YouTube and Facebook today. YouTube, the channel is called Sim Racing Malta. There's a space between each of those words, and then on Facebook, we're exactly the same thing. And this is the Sim Racing Malta Praga Cars R1 casual race that you are watching at this precise point.
Actually, I'd like to thank Praga for their support for this race, and hopefully we can even further our partnership with them in the future. I'd like to also thank our sponsors, which without them won't be able to do this. Sim News TV, World of Sim Racing, Melita, Textor, Extreme Power Sport, GT Omega Racing, Genesis, Husingville, Fanatec, and Sparkle.
Yeah, it truly is a very, very successful and very professional organisation so far. This Sim Racing Malta organisation is many sponsors and many different people getting involved. Very, very competitive championship, very professionally run series. And the racing follows, because the gap for the lead still just 0.8 of a second. It's extremely close, as it has been for this entire time. Then you have about a 7-second gap back to Brandon Tabone, just under 7 seconds. Tabone running in 3rd position ahead of Richard Schaefer, who is about 4 seconds behind Tabone. Then you have a shorter gap, like 1.5 seconds back to Josh Martin. That's still a battle that could change. And Terence Grech, very close to Martin as well. So that group, very close. Glenborg, little while back, Omar Barbara still sticking with him, but not quite able to pass him yet. And then we've had a couple of drivers who have had incidents so far, like Guachi, Calais. Oh, Calais is back in the pits, so there may well have been another incident. And Denis Yashenko, several laps down after his lengthy pit stop, might be able to get Calais here if Calais is long enough in the pits. So it's not all hopeless. Whoa! Through the gravel goes Denis Yashenko. That was very close, very nearly hit the wall. somehow managed to keep it out of the wall there, but well, that was a bit of a scary situation, and I've done that a couple of times in my GT3 Mercedes, which I do simulator league racing in. It's a difficult corner, but certainly does cost you a lot of time if you do that, and especially seeing as Ashenko has well, he's several laps down. He just needs to focus on bringing the car home now. So that mistakes like that, I'm afraid, are unexcusable. But anyway, we'll go back to the lead battle now. It appears to have come out slightly in that sector. I reckon that for the first time in this race, we are about a second apart, but still plenty of time for things to change, and it's still very close. Because let's face it, a second is nothing. Across the start-finish line we go this time around, and it is a second. It's pretty much exactly a second to the 10th of a second. Well, if you rounded it, it would be 1.1 seconds, but anyway, in reality it's less than that. As out of the pits, by the side of them, comes Josef Kalair. So Kalair returns to the race, and he's kept his position ahead of Denis Ashenko. Ashenko is on lap 9. In fact, they're both on... Well, actually, I think Ashenko may have passed Kalair there. It's just... it hasn't updated yet, so there may have been a change for 10th place, but we'll see at the end of this lap. Whoa, was that Ashenko going for a spin? Oh, it was. Ashenko's in the barrier. So another mistake from Ashenko. He's got the car running again, but he needs to stop doing that because he's really pushing this car past where it should be.
Yeah, it's good to say also that RPM Esports team drivers like Bernard Vella, Kit Camilleri, Terence Grech, and Terence Grech and Brendan Tabone have also been part of the AOR pre-season race. All drivers finished in top 8, and Bernard Vella actually won the pre-season race also. So Bernard Vella's doing really well, and he's improving a lot.
Absolutely. RPM Esports, our most loyal team here at Sim Racing Malta. And those 4 drivers previously mentioned doing very well. I mean, Vella and Camilleri especially leading this race, first and second, and they've been battling it out for the win so far, and are still very close. Their best laps, now get this, their best laps are separated by 1,000th of a second. So they are incredibly equal. Vella just edges Camilleri on the subject of fastest laps by 1,000th of a second. And that is the fastest lap in the race so far. So amazing race between the top 2 guys here, and it's certainly not over yet. Now, what about the battle further down the order? It's still Schaefer ahead of Martin, but it appears that Terence Grech has dropped back a bit from that duo. So Grech may have had a mistake while racing them, because he was right with them last lap, and now he's dropped behind Schaefer and Martin. So it's Schaefer 4th, Martin 5th, and Grech still 6th, but further back than he would have liked to have been. So something happened with Terence Grech there, but he's still running in his same position, no positions lost there. And Borg and Barbara is still close, but still in that same order. And indeed, Ashenko did pass Kalair on that lap, but of course Ashenko had a spin of his own. So not flawless from either of them, certainly. And the gap for the lead on that last lap, 0.6 of a second. So again, they're close, heading down the Kemmel Straight. And again, Camilleri getting a decent slipstream there. We have just about, well, this is the penultimate lap of the race. So we're coming to the end here, and Camilleri needs to be quick about making a move. He needs to be very creative about it. And he needs to catch Vella absolutely by surprise. Down into the bus stop, maybe. He needs to think about setting up for that. But it's difficult because whichever side you put yourself on, there is one corner in each direction. So you need to keep yourself there around the outside and the inside. And that's always a difficult one to hold. Schaefer and Martin still incredibly close for 4th position as well. You don't really know where to look in a race like this. In fact, I might well have a look at Schaefer and Martin for a brief while, because they're so close. Surely something's going to change between these two.
Actually, now on lap 14, there was a not a really nice move from Glenn on Omar Barbara. Obviously, enough it's going to be a penalty, which will be given by the stewards later on.
Yeah, I see that. Glenn Borg and Omar Barbara have both just escaped to the pits, and they might both be out of the race here. So unfortunately, the drivers who were running 7th and 8th in this race have had an incident together, and that is a big shame to see because, well, oh, and we're side by side for the lead. Camilleri is up the inside into the bus stop. I expected this might happen. Camilleri takes the outside line around the final corner. We're heading on to the last lap of the race. Next time round, here we go. Last lap of the race, and the lead is separated by 0.3 of a second. What a race we're witnessing here between the two leading drivers. Camilleri right with Bernard Vella on this final lap of the race. Who's ahead out of Martin and Schaefer? It's still Schaefer. But they're just as close, really, heading on to this final lap. In fact, Martin looks as if he's going to have a move to the outside for 4th position. He takes a look into La Source. He tries to hang on, but gets run out of road, and Schaefer sticks ahead for 4th. Now, Camilleri lines up Vella on the exit of Eau Rouge-Radion. He's side by side heading down the Kemmel Straight. Here we go, down the Kemmel Straight, and Camilleri tried to use the last amount of slipstream that he possibly could. Does he outbrake Vella into Lecombe on this final lap of the race? He tries to go around the outside. He runs over the inside curb. Someone spins. Someone spins behind them, and someone else is off the road. And Vella's off. Vella is off. Vella is facing backwards in the gravel. They have come to blows. I was briefly distracted by a backmarker running through the grass, but Bernard Vella has had a spin, and someone else has as well. That's the same backmarker, I'm afraid to say. I believe it was Denis Ashenko. So Ashenko has been having an incident, as does Joseph Galea. But Keith Camilleri on the final lap takes the lead of the race. I'm going to go back in the string to see if I can see what happened to Bernard Vella, because somehow it's all changed. He went off on his own. So Vella clipped the inside curb and spun it to the outside all on his own. And he's hit the wall. That's a damaged car, I think, from Bernard Vella. Only just, but he's certainly going slower than he should be. And that means that the win of this race is going to go now to Keith Camilleri on this final lap of the race. What drama we've just witnessed. He's coming through the final sector. He would never have expected it to end in that way. He did get the lead fairly and squarely. Vella went off all by himself. And Keith Camilleri is coming through at the end of this race to win it in terribly dramatic circumstances. Here he goes. He's only got the bus stop left to go. Meanwhile, Josh Martin has passed Richard Schaefer for 4th. So that battle did change. And now Keith Camilleri comes through the final corner, and he is going to win the race. There he goes across the line. He weaves from side to side. He knows he did it fairly. Across the line he goes. Keith Camilleri has won the race now. Bernard Vella is going to hold on to 2nd, despite having a slightly, I think, damaged car at the end there. He crosses the line in 2nd. Actually, I don't think there was any damage. Tabone is 3rd. Martin just holds on to 4th from Schaefer. That was a position that changed on the final lap. Terence Grech is going to be in 6th here. He dropped back a long way from that battle. I expect something happened between that bunch of drivers that might need to be investigated. So Terence Grech crosses the line 6th. Daniel Guacci is going to be 7th. He is the last driver on that lap of the race, I think, because Borg and Barbara, of course, had their retirements. And then behind them, Ashenko and Calais finished several laps down. Actually, I don't think Calais finished either. But I think he will be classified in this race. We'll have to see what order they do line up in on this reverse grid. But what an utterly dramatic finish to this race we have just witnessed. And Guacci, indeed, wasn't actually allowed to finish the race there for some reason. So the wait time for the next race has started just before Guacci was actually allowed to finish the race. But he did claim 7th position there. And that means the order was Camilleri, Vella, Tabone, Martin, Schaefer, Grech, Guacci, Borg, Barbara, Ashenko, Calais, and then a retirement in Jason Muscat. That is all, of course, discounting any penalties that might arise. And at the end of all of that, what a dramatic race we just witnessed.
Yeah, surely, and well said. We're going now for a short break, and obviously we'll be back for the second race.
Gigabit Internet issa f'Malta. Gawdi mill-Giga Power biss mal-Melita Flexi.
So in 1 minute 30 seconds, we'll see the start of the second race. Hopefully it will be an exciting one like the first one.
Absolutely, and what an exciting first race that was. Hello to everyone in the two streams. We're live on Facebook and YouTube as usual. I see the name Gareth Muscat watching in the YouTube stream in the comment section. Hello, Mr. Muscat. Sadly, Jason Muscat, who I presume you're related to in a way, was our first retirement from race 1, so that didn't go how he would have wanted. But race 2, we'll see. Still plenty of opportunity for an improved result. And for anyone in these streams might be rooting for, we have a reverse grid race now, so it should be a very, very interesting one. Pole position is going to be Denis Ishenko, followed by Terence Grech, Richard Schaefer, Josh Martin, Brandon Tabone, and then it's Vela, Camilleri. Camilleri, of course, our race 1 winner, and then our DNFs in Guaci, Borg, Barbara, and Calais. Actually, I don't believe... Who was it that I didn't think was actually allowed to finish? I think that might have been Guaci. So I think he should probably be starting at the front here. But anyway, that can all be sorted out after this race if it is an issue. We're just waiting for the lights to come on, and here they come. We've got the lights coming on, and when they go out, we will be starting the race, and it's go! Away we go for the start of this Sim Racing Malta casual race, race 2 of the day. And it's a good start from Ashenko ahead of Grech. So Ashenko is going to lead down into turn 1. Grech tries to run it around the outside. Ashenko slightly cuts the corner, but Ashenko does have the lead here after the first corner. Sadly, Jason Muscat didn't make it into this race. We only have 11 drivers, but still, it's going to be a good race. Everyone makes it through turn 1 safely, and Terence Grech has just taken the lead. So Terence Grech takes the lead going up by Rouge, but slightly cuts it, and Denis Ashenko is going to be right back on his tail now, I'm sure, as we head now down towards the Lacon straight, and Ashenko gets the lead straight back again. So a couple of swaps already on this opening lap, as Grech tries to outbrake Ashenko and doesn't quite get through, and then everyone piles through in the background as well. Everyone behind is right together. I believe the Camilleri's made up a full place at the start there, so that's good to see. Plenty of swapping going on, and Martin makes slight contact there with a driver who I think is Bernard Vella. It was certainly close in that mid pack, as Omar Barbara runs a bit wide and loses the place to Joseph Collette. It's all very, very close at the start of this race, as we'd expect. And it's Ashenko leading from Grech. And then it is still Schaefer from Martin. And is that Tabone? No, it isn't. It's someone else in 5th place, I think. No, actually, it might be Tabone in 5th. But anyway, or actually, is that... I think Camilleri's already... Well, Camilleri's in 6th. So... Anyway, it's still Ashenko leading, but Terence Grech all over his rear end. And and into the gravel slightly there goes Josh Martin. That was a close one. And Martin losing several places there, as someone else makes a slight error up in front. I think Grech touched the gravel slightly, and it's very, very close in the mid-pack. Now look at Ashenko coming under a real attack as Richard Schaefer blasts past both Grech and Ashenko and goes through into the lead of the race. Someone gets forced out and wide and over the grass. That's Bernard Vella losing many, many positions. And Ashenko is back up the inside of Schaefer, going down into the chicane. They're both in identically livery cars, which is confusing. But Ashenko does outbrake him and get into the lead of the race. There he goes. So Ashenko back into the lead. He's had a great start to this race, holding on against drivers you could argue are quicker. And Schaefer now gets through, going down into turn 1. He holds on around the outside. Look at Grech. They're 3 wide for the lead. Grech locks up, and that was very, very close. I thought they were going to come together. There is a slight touch there between Martin and Camilleri. And Camilleri already up to 4th. Great start from Keith Camilleri. And someone's going off in the background. Who was that? I think someone clattered the wall a bit there. But anyway, slight confusion. But whatever the case, it's going to be Richard Schaefer leading as Tabone. Oh no, it's Camilleri second now, followed by Tabone, and then Ashenko has dropped to, is that 4th? Yes, but he's side by side with Martin, and Martin I think is getting 4th now. It's really confusing to keep up with the order when it only updates at the end of every lap. As Ashenko runs slightly wide now, and he might lose another position here, as he holds up a chain of cars on the exit of the corner. Look at that. Josh Martin at the head of them, who goes up the inside now and gets the place from Ashenko. There's contact, and Ashenko's going round. Ashenko spins it at Bruxelles. He has been tipped into a spin by, I think it was Bernard Vella involved. And was that Terence Grech involved as well? I'm not entirely sure, but whatever the case, there's been a brief incident there. And Ashenko has been tipped into a spin, and he's recovered, but near the back of the order. I'll update you to what his position is after this lap.
Actually, the race steward has a few things to see on the first and second lap. Mostly on the second lap, we saw a little bit of touching and pushing, and obviously even forcing some drivers into spins. So definitely after the race, we'll be reviewing these accidents. So we'll see who's at fault.
And Ashenko is out. Ashenko has retired from the race. He's out of the entire server, and that's a big shame because that didn't look to be his fault, although again the stewards are going to have to go back over it, so we'll have to see. I only really saw it once. But anyway, for the lead of the race, look at is this, that's Camilleri. So Camilleri already up to the lead of the race, but not quite as no, Schaefer defends. And Camilleri gets a better run out of the corner. Camilleri already takes the lead. That's a great one from Camilleri. And he leads the race on this third lap of the race, followed by Schaefer, Tabone, Martin, Grech, and then it's Borg, Vella, Calais, Barbara, and Guacci. Guacci a little way behind. And then, of course, we have a retirement in Denis Yashenko, and Jason Muscat didn't start this race, I'm afraid to say. So Muscat only really did one lap in the first race and then pulled out of the entire event, I'm afraid to say. But now let's look at the lead of the race, because Schaefer looks to be coming back at Keith Camilleri. In fact, there's a whole chain of them in a line here. Tabone is also in the slipstream. But let's look at Schaefer. He's going to the outside of Camilleri, going down towards Lecomte. And does he outbrake Camilleri and go around the outside? He does! Look at that! There's slight contact, but what a move from Richard Schaefer to get back into the lead of the race. He did not give up. Yes, he saw that Camilleri was quicker and that he got away in race one, but now Schaefer has really gone for it, and he's taken the lead back, locks up slightly going down into Bruxelles, but a good move from Schaefer to take the lead of the race again. And Tabone's not far behind, so can Tabone get in on the action as well? Remember that Tabone was third in race one, actually beating our current leader, Richard Schaefer. So still plenty of opportunities for things to change. And Vella will be very pleased that this will happen, because if Vella comes through and challenges for the lead, which he is doing because he just made a move on Glenn Borg for sixth, then of course Vella will be thankful for Schaefer holding up his main rival Camilleri, his main rival in terms of this race anyway, this event. Of course, the two are teammates in our main series at RPM Esports. Camilleri ran slightly wide there through Curva threat, but he's lining himself up to possibly go for a move on Schaefer into the bus stop, maybe even pull alongside him before that. He's going to have a look into Blanchimont this time. That'd be a very ambitious move. We've seen Verstappen doing it. Let's see what Camilleri can do. Drifting wide goes Schaefer. He runs out and over the curb, and Camilleri now is side by side with him, goes to the outside and takes the lead. So Camilleri takes the lead back again. And Schaefer kept his nose in, but drops behind. So Camilleri leads this race now, followed by Schaefer and Tabone. And Terence Grech has passed Josh Martin for fourth, but those two still very close. And Martin still coming back at, or still looking like he might well come back at Josh Martin. That battle is absolutely not over. That's the pair that was battling in race one as well, before Grech dropped back. And that allowed Vella to just battle, I think, with... I think it was with Omar Barbara. But Barbara had an incident. I'm getting confused. But anyway, I was with Schaefer. And talking of Schaefer, Camilleri's gone defensive on the straight. The gap between the lead two, not quite half a second, even through the checkpoint last time round, as Josh Martin has a look at Terence Grech, but doesn't get back through on the Camel that time around. And now it's Camilleri, Schaefer, Tabone, Grech, Martin, Vella, Borg, Barbara, Calais, and Guacci, with a Shenko out of the race. So still very close between the leading trio, with Camilleri, Schaefer and Tabone. If any of those guys make a mistake, it'll be terrible for their race win chances. And I'm sure that any of these three guys could still take a race win. Also, don't count out Bernard Vella. He may be still in sixth position, but he's making up rapid ground. And the fastest lap of the race so far, even though the race is very young, has actually gone to Bernard Vella with a 2:24.7. Of course, the fastest lap in race one was in the 2:23, so still time to be gained. But that was the fastest lap so far has come from Bernard Vella. And now it appears that Camilleri is pulling out slightly from Schaefer and Tabone behind him. I expected he would, but still Schaefer not letting him get away that much, and a lot can change in the remaining 12 laps that we've got. Well, 11 laps. We are about almost 10 minutes into this race now. Doesn't time fly? Camilleri ahead of Schaefer by 1.7 seconds. That's the gap to the lead, but they're still very close for second between Schaefer and Tabone. Very, very close indeed. About 0.8 of a second in it for second. So that's one position that could definitely change. And on the last lap, actually Schaefer was slightly quicker than Tabone on the last lap, but in the last race, Tabone finished ahead of Schaefer. We'll have to see. Still a lot of time to go on in this race. And on that last lap, the fastest lap of the race went to Keith Camilleri by over a second. So he really is getting away from the rest of the pack now. And his fastest lap is over a second faster than anyone else's so far, as he's just got that clean air. And now he's putting his foot down and accelerating away from the rest of the pack. He knows that Vella's going to try to make his way through the order, and he wants to be gone before that happens. If it happens, Josh Martin locks up behind Terence Brecht there. That was a close one. And I believe there's been an overtake. Omar Barbara has passed Glenn Borg, and that's the overtake that we were expecting for the whole of last race. But when that eventually came, there was contact. I didn't see the incident, but they both ended up out of the race. And, well, now Glenn Borg has been passed by Omar Barbara, so Barbara up into 7th position. And second place still close, but we'll see what the gap there is as we go on to the next lap.
Seems that Omar Barbara had some kind of incident during the race, because obviously he has a shattered windscreen, as you can see from the onboard camera here. So obviously he's finding it a bit difficult to, I think, keep up with the race pace he needs to keep up with.
Well, he has just made a move on Glenn Borg, but he does appear to have a damaged windscreen, as you pointed out. So something's... No, that's actually happened on a couple of these cars. But look at Josh Martin and Terence Grech. So Grech and Martin side by side. Grech has the inside line going down towards turn 1 here, La Source, just ahead of Josh Martin, and it looks as if he's going to keep that for now. But this could be a battle that continues for a while in this race. Martin gets the switch back and goes to the inside, heading down towards Eau Rouge Radiant. Surely one of these two is going to have to concede the place now. This is a dangerous section of the course. Who's it going to be? And Josh Martin claims the place. So Josh Martin up into 4th position, and now Grech tries to get him back on the exit with the slipstream. He pulls alongside him. This is for 4th, remember. Martin probably has had enough of battling for 4th, but he's still going for it. And Grech now back up his inside, heading towards turn 1 of the Lecombe section. And Martin will have the inside line, but that's going to turn into the outside, but not in time. So Martin keeps that position from Terence Grech now, or gets that position, I should say. So that's changed. But as I was just going to say just now, quite a few of these drivers have damaged windscreens in this race so far. I can pick out a couple of names, as Grech has a big wiggle. That was a close one. But if you look through the order at Vella, at Barbara, at Borg, at Calais, at Guacci, they've all got damaged windscreens. In fact, it's everyone from 6th down. So the top 5 are unscathed, then 6th down, they all have damaged windscreens.
We just saw a spin from Terence, obviously, when he was chased by Bernard. As soon as Bernard took over, he just touched slightly with him and he spun on his own, so he lost his place there. So we see Bernard now in 5th place and Josh Martin in 4th.
Well, I saw Grech having a big wiggle coming out of Caen, but coming out of speakers rather. But it does appear that now there has been proper contact. And just looking at it on the replay, oh, it does look as if Grech just missed his braking behind Vella, went into the back of him, and spun the car around. So I'm afraid Vella, I think, only has himself to blame there. Or not Vella, rather, Grech only has himself to blame there. As Vella ran slightly wide in the corner to avoid going for a spin. Hubert Camilleri in the Facebook page says, "Go Keith," and Keith Camilleri is absolutely going for it. His gap to the lead is now 3.5 seconds as he sets another fastest lap of the race. So Keith Camilleri absolutely going for it today, and his fastest lap still over a second quicker than anyone else's fastest lap. Now Bernard Vella, as you said, has gained the place on Terence Grech as Grech went for the brief spin, and Vella's next target is Josh Martin up ahead of him. So Vella, who just missed out on winning last race on the last lap, is fighting his way through the order. He's currently in 5th, but he has a long way to go before he's up into the podium places. Probably about 5 seconds, and there's a car between him and Brandon Tabone, and that car is Josh Martin in 4th position. So still plenty of time for things to change. We're just over 15 minutes into this race, 9 laps remaining, and the closest battle, I'd say, was Martin has a slight lock-up. The closest battle at this point in time appears to be that of Vella catching Martin ahead of him, and these two, I'm sure, will be quite close, really quite soon. So Vella catching Martin, reeling the gap in, and I'm sure he is getting closer. It looks like he's under a second behind him now, although I can't guarantee that. We'll have to see when they cross the start-finish line. His first sector was... The first sectors were about the same, actually, but I think that Vella's second sector's been quicker so far. Yeah, indeed, that's confirmed. Vella gained about 0.4 of a second on Martin there, so he will be within a second now of Josh Martin ahead of him. And there's still time to be gained, with Vella reeling in 4th place. Now that Grech's dropped back, and of course Martin needs to have someone to battle with. He's been battling for 4th place for this entire event so far, both races, and he just can't have that position to himself, can he? Now it's Bernard Vella he's got to worry about, who has a slight lock-up going into the bus stop there. Meanwhile, Keith Camilleri extends his lead to 4.5 seconds. That's a great lead from Keith Camilleri. He's really pushing. Indeed, the gap between Martin and Vella has come to within a second, but we all know that Martin is good in defence, so whether Vella can actually get on terms with him or not in terms of passing him is going to be a tricky one. He'll certainly get the slipstream down this start-finish straight here, or not start-finish straight, but his long camel straight. And Vella gets closer to Martin. Not close enough for an attack quite yet, though. Still some time for things to change, of course. Nothing is confirmed at this point in time, with 8 laps remaining. And remember, this is 8 laps of Spa, one of the least predictable tracks in motorsport. Provides the best Grand Prix every year, in my opinion. But yeah, Spa-Francorchamps, legendary circuit, and Sim Racing Malta has really brought their own to it today with this event. Great racing we've seen so far, and a very professional series. Of course, partnered officially with Praga, the Czech racing company, who built this car, the R1. And now Bernard Vella really sizing up Josh Martin through that sector alone. He was about a whole half a second quicker. So Vella really catching Josh Martin here, and he might well have an attack down into the bus stop this time around. He's going to have a look to the inside, I think. Here we go. Vella runs out and over the curb at Blanchimont. Oh, he touches him! No! And off and into the wall goes Josh Martin. Now that is terrible to see, because Vella should have lifted off at that point. He was off the road and had absolutely no right to be attacking Josh Martin at all at that point. And now he's just come back on and tipped Josh Martin off. And I'm sure that the stewards will investigate that and I really wouldn't be surprised to see a penalty for that one. Martin hasn't quite lost position, but he's dropping back towards Richard Schaefer behind him. Oh, talking of that, Richard Schaefer is behind him. Now, how did that happen? Because Richard Schaefer was running... No, it's not Richard Schaefer who's dropped... Now, who's dropped back? Because Vella's up to third and Martin is up to fourth. In fact, Tabone is up to second, so yeah, it is Schaefer. Schaefer was running second, now he's down into fifth. So Schaefer lost 3 positions on that last lap, and Martin is not happy at all. Down that straight there, he was typing, "What on earth, dude? Seriously." And you must admire that he can type at that speed, but now he's really coming under attack from Schaefer.
As well said by you. Obviously, the stewards will be having a look at that incident later on to replay, so that will come out with an outcome on that overtake by Bernard Vella.
Well, I think it's quite obvious that it's going to be some sort of penalty for Vella, but I'll leave that up to the stewards. Anyway, we're still watching the battle for 4th position, the newly created battle for 4th. It doesn't appear that Martin has much damage, and if he does have any, it's really not significant at all from what I can see, although I can't really feel how the car's controlling, and is now coming under attack from Richard Schaefer, although I don't know why Schaefer is in that position at all. I'm going to have a look back on the stream to see if you picked it up. Do you know if you did? Because Schaefer was running in 2nd and now he's in 5th.
Actually, we didn't see what happened live, and we'll definitely having a look later, so that we'll see what happened with the loss of placings by Richard Schaefer.
Well, I tell you what, he's had an off at Lecombe. I've just seen it on the stream. He's off to the inside. This is on replay, rather. Last lap, I just saw it from Vella's onboard. There was a car off to the inside, and at Lecombe, at the moment that Schaefer dropped down the order. So I expect Schaefer has had a spin at Lecombe. Whether he probably went off by his own accord there, because he wasn't really running with anyone on track. So Schaefer's had a spin and has dropped down to 5th position and is now battling with Josh Martin. He appears to have dropped back a bit on that lap. So Martin pulling away again, actually quite significantly. So I expect Vella, or Schaefer rather, had a mistake on that last lap, and now the top 3 is the same that it was in race 1, but with 2nd and 3rd in the opposite order. So Tabone is ahead of Vella, when in race 1 they were the other way round, although there's still a big question mark hanging over Bernard Vella, and if he gets penalised for that error, which I expect he will be, then he might well drop down the order further. That might well be a 10-second penalty, although this is just speculation, and that would drop him to, at this point in time, well, it would drop him 1 place behind Josh Martin, so it would drop him to 4th, and that's about right, actually.
Actually, the minimum that he can get, it's like definitely 1 place back, which obviously will reflect through the penalty he'll be given, if it's a 10-second, 20-second penalty. But this will be investigated after the race by the race stewards through the replays.
So we won't find out the actual order of the race until after it, which is a shame, but sometimes with incidents like that, that's all we can do. And, well, Josh Martin just has to stick with him and hope that he does get a penalty. If he can keep in that time bracket, then he might well still get a podium yet. And it's Camilleri leading after almost 24 minutes of racing. Camilleri leading by 11.6 seconds. The gap is into double digits. Look at that. With Camilleri flying away from Brandon Tabone, and then Bernard Vella, Josh Martin, Richard Schaefer, and then it's Grech, Barbara, Borg, Claire, Guacci, and then out of the race quite early on, Ashenko. That was on lap 2 that Ashenko retired. And still the gap for the lead extends. Now, what's our closest battle on track? I'm not entirely sure. There aren't really any drivers running together, but there's a lot of drivers who still want to move up positions. Vella appears to be catching Tabone at a considerable rate of knots. His last lap was over a second quicker than Tabone, so Vela and Tabone might well still find themselves interlocked in battle later on. Just looking down the order to see if there are any other notable improvements which might still occur. Well, Glenn Borg has just been passed now by Joseph Clare, so Borg has had a terrible lap. He's about 12 seconds down, so he's had a spin somewhere. And Borg is now behind Clare. Clare up to 8th. Borg must have had a spin somewhere. As Clare, well, now is confirmed, goes up to 8th position. And into the pits now comes Glenn Borg. So there has been an incident, I expect. And Clare's pulling off. So Clare pulls off and stops the car. He parks it at the source. There's been an incident between the two of them, I expect. And Clare feels he's got too much damage and he teleports back to the pits now. So Clare and Borg both in the pits, and both are going to be in there for a while. Clare is out of the race. He's left the server, so out, I expect, for good goes Clare, and Borg is still in the pits. There's been an incident between the two, and that would be our second retirement, Clare. And if Borg can't get going, our third as well. As Daniel Guacci passes them both. So Guacci up to 8th now. Now, Keith Camilleri still running away with it. He is extending his gap every single lap. His last lap was over 2.5 seconds faster than Tabone behind him. That's unbelievable. What a lap. In fact, Tabone really quite slow on that last lap. So, maybe Tabone's struggling a bit. Maybe he made an error on that last lap. But anyway, Camilleri running away with it so far through the final corner. What's the gap this time around? He's still ahead of Tabone and Vela, who are quite close.
As we can see, I think lap by lap, Bernard Vela is closing up the gap. With,
well, I looked at the wrong.
So.
Yeah, carry on. Okay. Well, I looked at the wrong thing there because I thought that Vela had got past Tabone. He didn't quite, but he's now pulled the gap to within 2 seconds of him. In fact, he's only about 1.1 seconds behind. So on that last lap, indeed, Vela caught him by over a second. In fact, yeah, Vela's last lap over a second faster than Tabone's. Tabone again not as quick as we've seen him in the past. In fact, nowhere near. So Tabone's struggling all of a sudden. Maybe he's used up too much of his tyres early on in the race. Whatever's happened, he's dropping back into the clutches of all of the drivers behind him. In fact, quicker laps behind him came in from Vela, Martin, Schaefer, Grech. Yeah, he's really dropping back, I'm afraid to say. As Glenn Borg has emerged from the pits now, but he's lost a place to Daniel Guacci. And of course, losing a place to both of them, Joseph Clare, who is out of this race, and our second retirement. So 9 cars still running in this race, as Jason Muscat never actually started it.
Actually, it seems that Joseph Clare had some legging problems. He was too leggy, he said, sent us a message. And obviously abandoned the race so that he won't be endangered with the car.
Well, that's a very good piece of driving then to pull off the track. And if you know that your lag is a danger, then it is very, very respectable to pull out of the race. It's a big shame, but sometimes that's what has to be done. And hopefully he can get those issues sorted out for future races. Now, Vela keeps catching Tabone. If he caught him at the same rate that he did on the last lap, he'd be right on his gearbox coming across the start-finish line. Let's see if he can do that. Well, his lap so far has been about 0.4 of a second quicker. So it's certainly been a better lap so far from Bernard Vela than Brandon Tabone. He's catching him hand over fist, flying through Spa like a hot knife through butter. They break down into the bus stop chicane, and we'll see what the gap is as they cross the start-finish line this time around. It's going to be about half a second. That's my prediction, and that's about what it is. Well, it's about 0.7 of a second actually, as we have 3 laps of the race remaining now. And Vela still reeling in, Brandon Tabone ahead of him. The gap is coming down and down. And he might well have a go at him later on this lap. I don't think we'll quite be close enough at the end of Le Comte, or as we go to Le Comte, but this is a long straight, so we'll see how close he can get. It's probably not close enough for a move, but Tabone has to be careful later on in the lap. The bus stop has to be one of Vella's prime opportunities. The two of them set pretty much exactly the same first sector that time around, which was actually faster than Camilleri. So the two of them are really spurring on each other now, locked in combat. And now as we exit speakers, it's all about Vella lining up Tabone, who runs over the curb, lining him up for a future opportunity down into the bus stop, maybe down into La Source, maybe. Any of those opportunities, very good ones. So through camps we go, and down towards Curve de Paul Frere. What are the second sector times? The first ones were pretty much the same, and in the second sector, Vella pulls in 0.3 of a second. It's about, I expect the gap is about, well, it's less than half a second certainly. So they're very, very close, and Vella might well go for an overtake now down into the bus stop. It's a good opportunity from Vella. Now, will he go for it? It's going to be close. Down into the bus stop we head. He is going for it. He's going to the outside, trying to outbrake. He's going around the outside, keeps the inside, does he? He's going to have to think about going for it at La Source. So Tabone holds on for now as we go down towards La Source. And will Vella take a look here? Doesn't look quite close enough. Not quite. We're on the penultimate lap of the race now. Out of turn 1, over the curb goes Tabone. That's not going to help his exit speed. These two were second and third in race 1 as well, but in the opposite order. Vella gets a good run out of Rouge Radion, and he's going for it. They're side by side down the Kemmel Straight, and to the outside goes Bernard Vella. To the inside goes Brandon Tabone in defence, and Vella outbreaks him. So Vella takes second place in the race on the penultimate lap. Bernard Vella up to second. He's not going to be close enough to catch Camilleri unless Camilleri has some sort of incident. But Vella gets up into second position, and if they finish like this, it'll be the same podium in both races, and we will have a clearly defined order, because these three drivers will receive the Praga official free merchandise for the winners. Those are the prizes for the top three. But of course, we still got one lap after this one, so they need to hold on and not make any errors from now on. There are a couple of drivers behind who would love to take that away from them. I'm sure that if Josh Martin got second in this race, he would at least claim third in the points tally. It depends where the others finished, of course. So the order after 33.5 minutes of racing is Camilleri, Tabone, Vella, Martin, Grech, Barbara, Schaefer, Guacci and Borg. Those are the 9 cars remaining as we head onto the final lap of the race now. Keith Camilleri starts the final lap of the race, and Tabone is close to Vella. Does he go for no, he's not close enough to go for a retaliation move down into the chicane, but he's certainly not giving it up. And if he can get past Vella on this final lap of the race, maybe down into Le Comte with the slipstream, then he stands a good chance of keeping it. But as we head on to the final lap, the gap for the lead, 21.5 seconds. The gap for second, less than half a second. Still, though, a question mark over Bernard Vella. Don't forget, if he gets a penalty, this could be completely reversed. and that move would have amounted to absolutely nothing. Of course, we don't know that he will get a penalty. I expect he might well, but for his incident with Josh Martin, he needs to be, well, he needs to just extend his gap and not worry about it, see where he can put his car. The bone didn't get close enough going down the straight that time. In fact, his sector there was about 0.3 of a second slower than Vella's, so not catching on this final lap of the race here. It's getting rather close for 7th. In fact, Schaefer's dropped another place, so Schaefer really struggling here. He's dropped down to 7th, behind Omar Barbara. And I still don't know why Schaefer, well, we saw that he had a spin at Le Corne, but I'm not sure entirely why he dropped back from 2nd place. Now into the final sector goes Keith Camilleri. This has been a brilliant performance from him so far. He's chasing Glenn Borg to put a lap on him. Hopefully Borg won't get in the way here of our leader coming around to finish the race. And Camilleri just has 2 corners to go now. 1 chicane. Here he goes. It's a right and it's a left. And out to the final corner now goes Keith Camilleri down the final straight. And Camilleri wins it again. That's 2 out of 2 wins. A dominant performance. Amazing from Keith Camilleri, who wins race 2 just as he won race 1. But with even less pressure. He still had to fight for it, coming from near the back of the grid. But has absolutely run away with it. Now comes Bernard Vella. But remember, will he get a penalty? Won't he get a penalty? We'll have to wait. 2nd for now is Bernard Vella, 21.9 seconds behind. That is Camilleri's winning margin. And if Vella does get a penalty, that could be even as much as 24 seconds over Brandon Tabone, who may have just claimed 2nd, but claims 3rd on the road. So I'll call it 3rd for now. Josh Martin claims 4th, could be 3rd. We'll have to see. Terence Grech is going for 5th place. He exits the final corner now, and he's going to claim 5th place after finishing 6th in race 1. So Terence Grech, 6th place. Omar Barbara is no, Terence Grech 5th place. Omar Barbara is 6th. Then it's Richard Schaefer, and not being allowed to finish again, Daniel Guacci and Glenn Borg. So obviously the race time appears to be a bit trigger happy, and the last 2 guys weren't quite allowed to finish there. And Josh Martin is really not happy. So we'll have to see whether there's a penalty or not applied to Bernard Vella. But for now, what a group of races we just witnessed. Very exciting, especially race 1, where the battle came right down to the final lap. Battle for the lead, that is. And now we are going to get a couple of interviews at the end of this race. So the first driver we have in here. Actually, we're just getting a few in. I'll wait for the queue to start the interviews. Well, I think I've just got my queue. So Keith Camilleri. Hello, Keith.
Hello.
What an absolute bunch of races that was. I mean, utterly dominant. Did you? Well, I take it you really got on well with this car and circuit.
Yeah, this car is quite close to my real car that I race in the National Hill Climbs. So I think it was like an advantage for me. But yes, it was not an easy car to drive.
Not easy, but you seem to have utterly mastered it. Talk us through that. So race 1 and race 2, you had to fight for both of them, but ended up winning by quite a margin in both. So quite eventful for you, I expect, especially at the start of the races.
Yeah, for sure. First race, it was very close with Bernard. Unfortunately for him, he lost the car in the last lap. So it was just an easy last lap for me in the first race. Yeah, and the second race, it's always not easy to start from the back when you have some like a bit slower cars in front of you. You would like want to stay back a bit for the first two laps, and basically that's what I did. I kept my pace, and then I had Richard in front of me, and yeah, I overtook him and just managed the race.
And then, of course, race 2 ended up as a 20-second victory. I mean, you probably had no clue what was going on behind you. How did that feel? Was it even relaxing?
Yeah, it was relaxing. I was just trying to improve my time lap after lap, but the tires with this car, they were quite getting hot in the after 9 laps, 10 laps.
Well, you still got the fastest lap in that race by over half a second, so great performance there. And we will see it hopefully in the next race. Great performance.
Thank you very much.
So, in no particular order at all, I'm just looking at the list of names given to me for the interviews now. We have Bernard Vella. Hello, Bernard.
Hello.
So, Vella, second in both races. Talk us through how it went for you.
In the first race, it was quite annoying to lose the lead because of a left car. I put a massive block up on the tires and then I just lost my head and spun out. Totally my fault, the spin out. But I think in the second race, I did a much better job. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened exactly with Josh. I think he had to lift for Blanchimont and I had to take avoiding action, but then I ran out of road. So it's either I go on the grass or I hit him.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear the other side of that story in a little while. But do you think that your race was fair? Do you think you should keep the second place there?
I don't want to say anything.
Okay, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, you're allowed to say no comment there. What did you think of the battle with Richard Schaefer? That was a pretty exciting one.
Did I battle Schaefer?
Yes, for second towards the end of the race. That was not Schaefer. That was Tabone. What am I talking about? Brandon. Yes. Oops.
I think Brandon's tires had died, and my pace was just a bit better. So with the slipstream, it was even easier. So it was quite easy.
Okay. So thanks for that. Hopefully we will see you in future casual races as well. So moving on now to our next interview, who was the other driver in that battle towards the end there, Brandon Tabone. Hello, Brandon.
Hi everyone.
So Brandon, third in both races. Are you pleased with that? Do you think you could have challenged more for second?
Yeah, I'm pleased with that because in the qualifying I was like 5 tenths slower. So there was a possibility maybe there's an accident to win the race, but overall I'm happy about it.
Well, you were fighting for the lead of the second race for a little while, but the real battle in the end ended up being that one with Bernard Vella, and that was a right cracker. Talk us through your view of that one.
Yeah. At the last laps of the race, my tires were gone. So I was trying to finish the race and doesn't do any mistakes. And when Bernard attacked me, I left him some space. So we finished the race all happy. Yeah.
Well, good to hear. And again, hopefully we will see you in future casual races. Moving on to our... Yeah, that's fine. Moving on to our next interviewee, who is Josh Martin. Hello, Josh. Josh Martin is still on mute. We'll come back to him. First of all, we'll go to... we've been to Keith Camilleri. So, right, now we do have a Josh Martin. Josh, hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Only just, actually. Oh, goodness.
Is that better?
No, I'm afraid... No.
Come back to it.
Yeah, come back to this. There is some serious audio error going on there. Sounds very metallic. But anyway, let's start with Richard Schaefer. So, Richard, hello.
Hello, everyone.
So, Richard, you were fighting right in the action in both races there. Believe you finished. Actually, you tell me. So, how did your 2 races go?
Well, these 2 races were really, really hard for me because I was struggling with the car in every particular thing, with the setup, with the tires towards the end. And then all the fights with Josh in the first race and at the start of the second race with Keith was really intense.
So, yeah, it was indeed a very intense race. Are you impressed with are you pleased with your performance though?
Not really. I was hoping to get near the podium, but I did not practice enough, and my pace just wasn't there. So in the end, it's how it is.
Well, it is how it is, as you say, and again, hopefully we will see you in future casual races. So let's briefly come back to Josh Martin and see if the audio is sorted. No, I'm afraid it isn't. Ah. No, it's just really, really quiet, and every time I speak, I get this really loud metallic clang in my ears. So I'm afraid that's not going to work. If you can fix that in the next minute or so, then we might still get the interview in. But otherwise, I think that might be the end of the broadcast. So, just one last try. Do you think you can get it sorted? No, that's not working. Right, I'm going to hand over now to Adrian Fagallo to round off this broadcast.
Maybe we'll just give some time for Josh to manage to do repair his problem he's having right now. But obviously enough, would like to thank all our sponsors, which obviously without them this won't be possible. Obviously we need to thank Praga for being a partner of us, giving us this opportunity also, and hope we'll have more opportunities to have some races with this really beautiful and fun car to drive. I'd like to remind everybody that this weekend, as we said, we're going to be at the Quickfire Nova Series LAN at the Eden Arena from Friday till Saturday. From Friday till Sunday, and we'll be live streaming also the events from there. Obviously, the sprints we're going to have will be live streamed, and on Sunday we're going to have the finals in the early afternoon. And obviously, this evening we'll be publishing the details about which track we'll be using and car we'll be using for this coming weekend. We check if possibly maybe Josh managed to get his voice sorted.
Josh Martin? Okay, well he's typing something, so we'll see. If you do think you've got it sorted out, then you need voice activity. Okay, we're having a lot of problems bringing you the interview today from Josh Martin, but that's okay. That's a shame. Apparently, okay. I don't know if this is going to get sorted, but a very exciting group of two races today, won and dominated by Keith Camilleri. Amazing performance from him, and also from the drivers behind him as well. We saw a good display of racing today. Surprisingly clean for a race at Spa-Francorchamps. I don't believe that Oris Radion claimed anyone at all. I mean, I didn't see the incidents on the first couple of laps a lot of the time, but it seemed cleaner than I was expecting, even though we did have a little bit of contact throughout the field in both races. But I very much enjoyed that. It was a great car, and great to have Praga on board to partner Sim Racing Malta for these races today, and hopefully we will be bringing you more partnerships like that in the near future.
I would like to thank everybody for following us today. We'll be obviously with you very soon with our next races and casual race, and as we said, follow us this weekend live directly from Quickfire Nova Series from the Eden Arena. Thanks everybody, and have a good night.
internet issa f'Malta. Gawdi mill-Giga Power biss mal-Malta Flexi.
My name is Vincent Randall. I'm from the UK. I run VR Motorsport and we run a Praga R1 Turbo in the Dutch GT and Prototype series. We chose Praga because compared to the other cars available from other manufacturers, we felt it had a very high performance for the cost of ownership, and we thought the safety elements of it being a full carbon monocoque were really second to none. So we invested in it back in 2016 and we have run this year in the championship. We've had the odd incident, but it's been possible to do repairs and work on the car very easily. And I think the car's moving to be a great decision for VR Motorsport. This season was our first season in this championship, and a big step up from club racing, which we were doing for the last 5 years. We've had one race win, a number of race seconds, race third, so we are very pleased with our development for our first year. We set out with 3 amateur drivers, the idea being that taking amateur drivers from club motorsport in the UK to a more professional level of motorsport in Europe. One of our challenges was to match the car to the driving style. The driving style being from what they call RGB, Road Going Bike series in the UK, which is a radical type car on road tyres. So I felt that the characteristics of the Praga, although much faster, would be similar to their driving style. And so far it's proven to be true. And the drivers have proven to be up to the challenge. In 2018, we have advertised for drivers for the car. Our plan at this moment in time is to put paid drivers in the cars and increase our sort of Praga ownership to 2, which would be the next step forward as a team. We plan to do the same championship next year, but also plan to include some maybe 4 or 6 hour racing, which we haven't experienced yet as a team, and I think it would be the obvious next step as we carry on our development.
Hi, I'm Al Bolton. I've been racing in the UK for 15 years, sort of various club levels, bike engine cars, and this is my first season in the Praga R1T. First season in Dutch Prototype Cup as well. First time at a lot of these circuits, first time driving this car in many different conditions. It's a really, really good car to drive. It's a bit trickier than something I've done in the past, but a lot more speed, a lot more to think about. First time with slicks and wings, proper downforce, so lots to learn about. But the car's been really quite easy to drive actually, and it's got easier as the time's gone on. We've learned how to set the car up. One thing I'm really impressed about is the kind of level that we're racing at, and the car's been really easy to maintain. We've got kind of one guy looking after it in Dumfries, and to race at this sort of level and the car be quite low maintenance really. The guy just checks it over, checks the fluids, that kind of thing, and spanner checks it. There's no having to have crowds of people to, no pre-warmers, no tyre warmers. We don't use tyre warmers. We bring it down in a small van, look after it with a small team. We're all volunteers, no professionals, and yeah, it's good. It's good to drive as well. It reacts well to good setup changes. It tells you what it's doing when you're driving it. You can it's almost like wearing the car. You can kind of feel it through your body as you're sort of strapped in so tight. Quite a solid seat in it, so you do feel every bump, but that's a good thing, because you can feel exactly what the car's doing. If the front's pushing wide or the back's pushing wide, you can come back in and you can advise on what to do to change the setup. Pretty good on tyres. Yesterday, I think we ran with second-hand set of tyres from Assen, so they'd done an hour's race, 2 40-minute practice sessions, and they were still good. We put a new set on for race 2 and hoping to get a bit more time out of the car. So I've been with BR Motorsport for a couple of years now. They've been supporting me through racing. As I say, it's our first season as a team running with the Praga and under Dutch prototypes. We're hoping to do the same again next year. Got a few ideas in hand, maybe enlarge the team a little bit. We're working on that at the moment. Obviously, it depends on a lot of stuff, sponsors and that kind of thing. But we've got some good results to show people now. We didn't know where we'd come first season. There's a lot of learning going on, but we've had some good results, some podiums and a win at Zolder. And we're seeing how we're going to get on at Spa today.